From the 82 people that commented, 79 said yes. And of course it means that they want to see how I'm gonna fix the shaper. But how about the silent majority that doesn't want to see me fix the shaper? They had to leave comments, so... But first of all, what are we talking about here? Now, when I run the shaper, there is this locking sound. Now, let me explain a little bit what's happening here. If this is my shaper with, of course, the bull gear and the rocker arm. If we take a point, a fixed point up here, the height of the rocker arm, we go to the end of stroke. If I draw a line here where the ram should be here, we have a piece of nothing. So the rocker arm is making a circular movement and the ram is making a linear movement. And to compensate the difference of length here, there is a sliding block. In some types of shapers, there is here a hinge between the ram and the rocker arm, and the compensation of the difference of distance is at the bottom. But in my little green machine, it is here on the top. And the sliding block is nylon or something. And what's happening with nylon over the years, and then especially when there's oil or grease on it, it starts to swell up a little bit, which means the U shape where the block rides, the block itself becomes too large and gets stuck. So all you have to do is take the thing apart, take this nylon block out, make it again a little bit smaller that it fits, put it all together, and we have a brand new shaper. Almost. To fix this thing, first I will start with the list of ingredients we need. First of all, of course, my glasses, so I can see a little bit better. We need a spanner 17, a small screwdriver and a piece of sandpaper. This is 400 grit, something more or less, no problem. Right, let's do this. First of all, let's make some living room and take off some weight. And then with the little screwdriver, now the color of the handle is not important, you can choose, we take off these back mounts. And of course also those here on the back side. And to make it easier for now and even for later, we're gonna move the ram to the front, give it a little bit more stroke. We're now on the side of the adjusting gib. This is of course the front side, the cutting tool side of the machine. And in here there are the adjusting screws. So what I do to make my life a little bit easier after for assembly is I pull them back a half a turn. And now I can take out these bolts here. And indeed the oil I use is very sticky. Ah, here we go. And here's the gib. And the last step before I can take off the ram is of course take off the position stroke position lever arm here. It's on the floor. Now, this thing is not very heavy, but it's not foam either, so it's always a good idea to know where you're gonna put it before you have it in hand. I made a little bit of space over here. Let's do this. And the patient that needs some attention is in here. So we take the crank, we're gonna put the thing more or less middle of the stroke. Here you go. And here's the nylon sliding block. Now of course it's a little bit dirty, and a few years ago I gave it some grease, because this part here you cannot put oil on it. It's not possible, except of course if you take it all apart, then you can, but normally you cannot oil this thing. And to prevent it from rusting, I gave it a little touch of grease. But I think my problem here on the shaper is more important than I thought it was, because my nylon block here, if I put it all together again, come on block, what's happening here? Okay, I don't have to do any effort at all to make the thing slide, which means the knocking sound in my shaper here doesn't come from the block. But where does it come from? We are now 1 week later, because of time flies, you know, and I had to get my mind back into this thing here, and I think I figured out what's wrong with it. I set the machine on maximum stroke length, but for the moment we're now in the middle of the stroke. And here, when I move around to this thing, there's absolutely no play. And this rocker arm slides so nice that by gravity it's going down by itself, because this machine is not level. But whatever. Okay, let's go to the end of the cutting stroke, somewhere over here. And here there is a little bit of play. Not a lot, but there is. Let's go to the end of the backstroke. And here there is a little bit more of play. And for those that maybe aren't completely familiar with the system, let me show you here. This is of course the bull gear. And on the bull gear, eccentric of it, we have the crank pin. For example, over here. And the crank pin, we can change the position to adjust the stroke length, of course. This crank pin, on top of it there is a sliding block. And this block, of course, slides with the movement, up and down movement, in the rocker arm. And between the block and the V of the rocker arm, there is some play. So to fix this, in theory, it is very simple. Take out the block that holds on the crank pin and make a new one with the right dimensions, put it back in and you're good to go. But on most machines you have here somewhere a lid or a door that you can open, and then in here you see the whole system working. And we need access to this side to be able to adjust the stroke length. But as you can see on this machine, there isn't. Which means that I have to do it from this side. And of course it means that I have to take apart the feed mechanism, the clutch mechanism, and then take out these bolts here and open it this side. I did it once and I think it's a lot of work. And for the moment I don't really feel like doing this because okay, there is some play, but not too much. I can still use the machine as is, and also I need a piece of bronze to make a new block, which I don't have. Because for the moment I cannot fix the shaper, but I have it all apart. Maybe it's a good idea to show you the inner workings of the thing. I know there's a lot of machine fans watching these videos, so for the shaper lovers, this is for you. And also for the not shaper lovers. To work properly, every machine, every mechanical component that slides or that spins or whatever needs some oil. And that's why in this machine there is an oil swamp, an oil bath. So in the bottom there is a layer of oil. But looking down in this thing, there is no oil pump to be found. So how does it work? Back to our blackboard, of course, with the bull gear, and here this pointy line is the level of the oil. Now this oil level doesn't have to be very precise in this machine. In some other machines maybe, but in this machine not really important. Let's say that the cutting stroke is that way, which means the bull gear is gonna spin this way. It's gonna pick up some oil. The surplus of oil will be rinsed off here on the little driving gear, and the rest of the oil is stuck between the teeth of the thing and comes over here, and over the center line there is a little steel plate. Original in my machine it was copper, but it was broken, so I replaced it by steel. And the oil climbs up this little plate, and then one side drips off in a little pipe that goes to the bearing here, the central bearing, and the other side drips off and then flows along the rocker arm and is gonna oil here the sliding block and the crank pin. Let's have a look. it's not really easy to film in here because it's dark and I'm shaking the camera, but maybe you can just make up here on the point of my screwdriver the little pipe that leads the oil to the main bearings. And this is a view in the abyss where we can see the oil level and of course also the clutch system activator handle thingy. And the bigger part you see moving is in fact a conical brake, but in this machine the brake doesn't brake very well. But whatever. Before I put it all together again, maybe first a question. Is it possible to make it a quick and easy fix by, for example, installing a shim between the sliding block and the sliding surface of the rocker arm? Nope. To do so, I need access between the rocker arm and the sliding block. And here, of course, there's no room to work. Which means I have to take this thing all apart. And if I have it apart, I think it will be quicker to make a new block than to find shims that I can't install because there's no place to hold them in place. So, nope. Right, let's prepare a little bit the assembly work, but before I do that, just to be sure the oil channels are open. Here's one, I hope the camera picks it up. Here's one in the side, the camera does not pick it up. I'm gonna move this because I will be the first to drop them in the oil. Let's check. Okay, all three seems to be open, so that's good. And this one too. And we also check the ram. There's no little birds or nothing sticking out. And I don't know if you can see, but on this part here there are the original scrape marks, and here they are gone. But my nail doesn't catch this little rim here, so difference in height, I think close to nothing. Just here on the back side we see a little bit the original scraping and all the rest is gone. But that will do. On this one I marked front, which means this side goes on the front. Check if the oil ports are open. That looks good. Okay. And now comes the most boring part of the assembly. In the beginning, when I took it apart, I gave all these adjusting screws a half a turn out. So now I'm gonna put them all back a half a turn in, more or less. And now I have to tighten all the bolts. And then see if there's no play, or maybe it's stuck because of too much. And then I have to loosen all the bolts again and then adjust the adjusting screws and then tighten it all again and test again and again and again until it's alright. But I'm not gonna bother you with this. I will bring you back when it's done. Okay, finished. Now, after all, it was quite a ride. I think not even 10 minutes of trying, and I think it will work. Now, let's install the Pacmans. I think the best way to figure out if the thing really works is by making ships, of course. So I installed a useless little piece of steel and a nice cutting tool, and I dialed in 1 mm depth of cut. Now, because of the part is a little bit in an angle, this side will be deeper cut than the back side, but we'll see what happens. It leaves a nice finish, that's for sure. Right, let's try again. Depth of cut 1 mm, and let's run the machine at more or less 110 strokes a minute. So all assembled again, and it leaves a finish as usual, so that's good. And what's nice is that now I know that, okay, I have to fix it, but it's not urgent. I have the time to look around to find a nice piece of bronze, and then maybe one day